everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I've decided to start a wedding planning series. So for my first video today, I'm going to be doing a wedding planning timeline on how I've planned my wedding up till today from the time that I've gotten engaged. I've also thought about doing videos like on how I got engaged, how I asked my bridesmaids to be in my wedding party, how I chose my venue and different things like that, along with how I found my wedding dress. So starting from the day that you get engaged, my first suggestion would be just to spend that first month or at least a few weeks after you get engaged just kind of enjoying it and, you know, letting all your friends and family know and not worrying about planning for the wedding yet, because that's so stressful and you're going to be doing that for at least the next year. So just try to take those first few weeks and really enjoy just like time with your fiance and just kind of accepting the fact that you're now engaged, because it's a lot to take in. So when you're ready to start planning your wedding, my first suggestion would be to either decide on the date that you want to get married or the venue that you would like to be married at. If you already know the date, you have to have lots of venues open, especially if you're going to be getting married in less than a year, or if your wedding's going to be during wedding season, because most likely that one day that you want is going to be booked at lots of the different venues. However, if you have the venue and you don't have the date, then all you have to decide is the season that you want to get married. So for me, I wanted to get married in summer and I knew where I wanted to get married. So I just called the place and I asked them, like, what days do you have open between June and August for summer 2019? And then they gave me a list of the days and I chose. So I knew I wanted a weekend, but I actually ended up going with a Friday because it was 4th of July weekends. And I thought that was just kind of perfect because everybody would already be off for that entire weekend. Nobody would have to like take off work to travel, and it just worked out perfectly that way. However, if you don't have a date and you have no idea where you want to get married, my suggestion then would be to decide on the type of venue that you want. Like, do you want an indoor wedding or an outdoor? I knew that I really wanted an outdoor. However, I wanted a place that would allow me to be indoor in case of bad weather. So at my location, it's going to be a garden wedding, but we also have an alternative indoor space where we're going to be having our dinner and also a different hall that we could have the ceremony in case it was raining. After you've decided on the type of venue, you know, you could also think about like wanting a beach venue, a church. Some people get married in like barns nowadays, so decide on that and then decide on the season and then go from there. After you've chosen your venue, my next suggestion would be to set your budget then, because you really don't know how much your venue is going to cost. Like for me, my venue was actually not that expensive. What cost a lot was the catering, where some venues are like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and that's going to eat up most of your budget. So after you know how much you've spent on that, then see how much you have for the remainder of your wedding. So after you have your budget and your venue, I would then suggest calling a catering company and seeing if they can work with the date and the venue that you have chosen. Venues and catering are both two things that book up really fast, especially if you're trying to plan less than a year out. And then some catering places won't work with the venue that you've chosen because like some venues don't have kitchens, and that catering company might require that you have a kitchen at your location. So definitely having a list of different options for catering and kind of knowing like what type of food you would want. You also have to see if they're going to serve alcohol or not at your wedding, because some catering companies will do drinks and some won't. One thing I forgot to mention is when you're looking at venues and at catering, you need to kind of have a rough estimate of how many people are going to be at your wedding. It doesn't have to be exact, but you should know, you know, is your wedding going to be around 100 or is it going to be around 500? Because not all venues are going to be able to accommodate that many people. And you should also know for catering, because catering really adds up per person. Like the average cost per person per dinner plate is about $60, which is crazy high. So if you multiply that times 500, you're going to be spending so much more money than you ever thought you would be on this wedding. So after you have all of that done, next, you're going to have to sit down with your fiance and start compiling a guest list. First, kind of set a budget, meaning how many people you can actually afford to invite. And then go from there, you know, start, of course, with like immediate family and friends and people that you cannot see yourself getting married without. And then after that, you can kind of start adding people where, you know, you feel like you should invite them because they're important to your family, people who invited you to their weddings and things like that. At this point, I would also start considering who you would want in your wedding party. So for me, I decided that I wanted 6 girls. It was really important for me to have the same number of bridesmaids and the same number of groomsmen, because I think that looks really good in photos. I don't like when it's all uneven. So I chose my bridesmaids and Craig chose his groomsmen, and then I sent out bridesmaids invitations to them, and I'm actually going to make a video specifically on that and what I included in their little party bags. The next step I would suggest is booking a photographer. That's another extremely important vendor, but it's another vendor that can kind of cost a lot of money. So you want to know right away, you know, how much you're willing to spend and how much photographers kind of expect you to spend to have photos for the entire day. Some people also want to do a videographer for the ceremony or the entire wedding. For us, we just chose to get the ceremony videotape. Another thing to consider when booking your photographer is that a lot of people like to do engagement sessions to use for their save the dates. And save the date should be sent out about 9 months ahead of time. So that means if you want to do that, you should really be booking your photographer about 10 months before the wedding, because you're going to have to schedule a session with him to do the photos. And then you're also going to have to wait for those photos to come in. And for us, it took about like 2 weeks after the session to get those photos back. And then you're also going to have to design the save the dates and get them printed and get them shipped out. For us, we ended up using a photo that we had taken in Cancun the summer prior, just because we didn't have the time to, find the photographer, wait for the photos to come in, and we didn't really know like right away who we were going to be using for photography. So that's always an option too, if you don't like have the money to book right away, or you're just really not sure who you want to use as a photographer. It's just use a photo that you've used from a previous session. So while we were waiting for our save the dates to come back, I was also working on creating a wedding website. I ended up using weddingwire.com. So my address is weddingwire.com/Ava and Craig. On the website, you can find all sorts of information about our wedding. So it's gonna be like the locations, the times. There's wedding blocks on there. So for places where my guests can stay. I booked my wedding for the same weekend as 4th of July, so I know that it's going to be extremely crowded up in Lake Geneva because that's a really popular area to have summer vacation, and I didn't want anybody to like struggle finding a place to stay. You can also put your registry on there. So we're using Zola, so we have the link for our registry on our website as well. So now for the most exciting part of wedding planning, the wedding dress. So I would suggest, and so would most bridal consultants, to get your wedding dress at least 9 months out before your wedding, because it's going to take months to first get your dress shipped to you. It's usually going to come to the store as well. And then another few months to get it tailored, to get it fit. And you're usually going to do a few fittings. You're going to do one the first day when you find your dress. You're going to do another when it comes in. And then you usually do a third a few weeks before your wedding, just to make sure everything fits properly, that it works well with the shoes you chose, and to make sure that you didn't like lose any weight or gain any weight right before your wedding. Some people also choose to look for bridesmaids dresses the same day that they find their wedding dress. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that, because I believe that you're really going to need those full 2 hours to find your wedding dress, to have that attention spent on you, to make sure that it's everything that you wanted and more, to really try on everything that you see and everything that other people want you to see as well, because sometimes you get a suggestion that you never thought you would have liked and it ends up being the dress that you choose. With that being said, though, I would suggest getting your bridesmaids dresses picked out at least 6 months before your wedding, if not further out, because it's going to be the same issue again that it is with the wedding dress, that you're going to need a couple months for them to get shipped there, and then a few months for alterations. I personally chose to do my bridesmaids dresses at David's Bridal because many of my bridesmaids live in different states than I do, and I knew if I chose like a private boutique like I did for my wedding dress, then they would all have to travel to Chicago to get that one specific dress. The nice thing about David's Bridal is that there's multiple locations that they can go and all get the same dress that I chose. Another thing that Craig and I recently did about 7 to 8 months out from our wedding is we chose our officiant. That's going to be the person who's going to be marrying us. And that was one thing that was a lot harder to do than we ever expected. And I'm sure it's easier if you're having a church wedding, because then there's already somebody who's like designated to do that for you. But for us, we're doing like a private garden wedding. So we really had like no idea, and we took a lot of time and like research to find somebody that would do a good job and someone who would have like a meaningful ceremony for us. So that's where I'm at right now for planning my wedding. A few things that we're going to be doing in the next upcoming month or two is we're going to our tasting for our food and our cake. I think it's like December 29th. What else? We are going to be looking for wedding bands shortly. And we're going to start planning our honeymoon within the next month or two as well. And then by March, which is going to be 4 months out from our wedding, we're going to be having our formal invitations sent out as well. And then 2 things that I know we're going to be doing within the next couple months or this spring would be finding somebody to do music for us. I think we're gonna compile our own playlist and then hire a DJ. And then I need to decide what I'm gonna be doing for flowers. I think I might design my own bouquets, but I'm not quite sure. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in me doing more wedding videos, then like this video and subscribe, and also turn your bell notification on so you will be alerted when the next video in this series comes out. Thanks guys, have a great day.